Max Sterling. Welcome to LarpMix. A while back at LARP, I used to run with a group of guys that we all hung out outside of game and we knew each other very well, and so we played in game also. And we were pretty well synced up. And whenever we would run into encounters or situations, whether it be in the real world or at game, we sort of knew each other's moves, and we knew that we could give signals and gestures to each other to sort of signify things that were happening without even speaking. We were on a non-verbal level. And in-game, it was actually pretty interesting to sort of see how we worked as a sort of little barbarian clan using these sort of nonverbal gestures. Well, time passes, they fell out, and, I ended up being the only person left at this LARP. So I haven't really thought much about hand signals or even nonverbal gestures until very recently. Playing a game this year, I ran into several situations. One where we were underwater, and so we couldn't speak and we couldn't breathe. We had to hold our breath. We were also in a poison gas sort of environment where we also couldn't breathe or really speak. And I was also on a rogues mission where all it was sneaking around at night, and there were a bunch of us there that I have not really worked with in the game before, and it was a really difficult scenario to sort of navigate without being able to communicate with each other. So right there, I can think of at least 3 situations where in a American-style boffer LARP, using hand signals would have been just something incredible if everyone knew how to do them. Now, if you play reenactment or you play big battles and things like that, then you're probably not going to need hand signals, because I don't think historically there was really much use for them, or if they were used, I haven't really seen anything in my research as to what medieval style hand signals would have been, because they would have been using horns, flags, banners, things like that to sort of signal troop movement on a battlefield. You wouldn't have had people over in the bushes giving hand signals to each other, because that's more small ops sort of stuff, which I'm not sure how much of that really occurred during that era. Now, if you do have information on medieval era hand signals, especially military related stuff, that's great. Comment below, let me know what's going on, because I'd love to use those instead of sort of the more modern styles. But like I said, in my research I couldn't find anything on it, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. So if you play a game where you're in a small unit, and this could be good for paintball, I mean, we're talking airsoft, post-apocalyptic, modern games, vampire, but also medieval fantasy, because if it's fantasy, I mean, who really cares if you're using modern day hand signals in a fantasy game? Who's to say that people don't use them there? It's a completely fictitious, made up environment. You're running around with elves and orcs. Who cares if you're giving hand signals for rally points and stuff like that? So the point is, you may find this useful, you may not, but if you play a multitude of games, it's something really cool to know. And if you have a close-knit group that you play with, it'd be really cool if your group knew all of these. And if you already know them, then go and comment below, because you're already one step ahead of the game. So let's talk about my scenarios: underwater, poison gas clouds, and trying to sneak around. So we'll use my rogue example here, because we were trying to infiltrate a fortress, and there were, I think, 5 of us. And we don't work together normally, so we probably wouldn't have known hand signals. However, if we had, instead of throwing small pebbles and making bird sounds and stuff to distract guards, or trying to let other people know that we're picking locks to get in while we hid in the tree line, we could have been using hand signals, which would have been much smoother and would have given a much less risk of getting caught. So some hand signals, real basic ones, and probably you might even know them. And, as far as military worldwide, police forces, and everyone has hand signals, so they're not all the same. So make sure, if you're playing with a group, that you agree on what hand signals you're going to use ahead of time, and make sure that everyone knows them. But there are some very simple ones that we can all figure out. So we'll go ahead and start with stop, or halt, which is just one hand up. And anytime you're doing hand signals, it's going to be your non-dominant hand. So if you're left-handed, it's going to be your right hand. If you're right-hand, it's going to be your left hand. So I'm going to be doing my signals left-handed, because that way I can still have a hand on my weapon or spell pouches or whatever I need to throw at people or whatever I'm trying to do. So halt, hand up, open palm like this. Freeze, hand up, palm clenched. So you're going to make a fist. The difference between halt and freeze is halt is just sort of like, hey, we're stopping here. Freeze is stop. Dead in your tracks. Don't breathe. Don't whisper. Don't move. I saw something. You're about to step on a trap or something is up. So you can tell people to stop. You can tell people to freeze. And there's two different types. And like I said, they both have their uses. I know whenever we're walking through trapped rooms and stuff, it's always going to be freeze. If we're just moving through the woods, looking for encounters or something, maybe it's a halt. And, people can talk or whatever. It's not a big deal. So halt and freeze. Now, once you have your people stopped, maybe you need them to go somewhere. So you can set, a marker or a rally point or someplace for them to go. And how you want to do that is just move your hand in a circular motion and then point to your objective. So if you want everyone to run to a tree or a doorway, or if you want them to run over to a flag or maybe a specific enemy or something, you would just move your hand and then point towards the target so that they know where they're going. And even if they don't go to exactly what you were pointing at, because maybe there was some miscommunication, at least you got them moving in the right direction. So if they stop at this tree instead of that rock, at least they're where you wanted them to go. So that is a good one to use. As far as if you see an enemy. Now, most of these are modern day hand signals, so you're going to make little gun signs and stuff, but in a medieval fantasy game, you're not going to have a gun. Maybe you have your sword or a dagger. So what you're going to do is, instead of bringing, a weapon up to the ready and pointing at the enemy, I would suggest just taking whatever you have and pointing. So if you have a sword or a dagger or a staff or a mace or whatever, just point towards that enemy. So if you have your weapon sheathed right at your side, just bring it up and point in the direction of the enemy. If you're playing airsoft or something, then you can, bring it up, to ready and point so people know what you're looking at. Now, one thing that I run into a lot as a rogue is traps. Now, traps, if you're in a trapped room and you want to signify to other people that there are traps, or maybe you've spotted one, you can always, tell people to look, at something. But I would use this for a trap, just to signify that something's going to explode. And people that know the actual hand signals for stuff probably crack up a little bit. But this is the signal I would use for a trap. So if I see a fireball trap or something as we're moving through a dungeon, I would let people know that that is there. A few other gestures you may need are get down, which is just open palm, downward motion. Get up, which is basically just the opposite of that. You may also need to count, whether you're counting enemies or doors or objective points or something. Counting is very easy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or sometimes you may see a 1 and a 0 for 10, but I would just do this for a 10 because it's easier. As far as anything else you may need to know, there is double time, which means if you're moving away or you need someone to run, you can go like this. It's just pumping your arm up and down, and that basically just means run or move, faster. I would use it, basically to signify running. But like I said, as far as hand signals, there are a ton of them that you can use, and really it's more important that you work them out with the people you play with than you try to stay strictly to one set, whether it be police or military or something like that. Figure out what you need to do in your group and signals that you guys may understand. You may understand things like this or whatever hand signals you may want to give, but it's most important that you or me, you understand these hand signals, and really you'd be better off if you did sort of develop your own hand signals, because a lot of people may know hand signals. So if they see you giving those, hopefully they don't metagame, but they could metagame it and spoil the fun. But if you make up your own hand signals, then they may not know. You may want to make up some sort of signal for orcs or something. I don't know. You could make a signal for elves. I don't know. You could do whatever you want. That's the whole point, is that you could have some really elaborate hand signals. If you happen to know sign language, I mean, that would be amazing, because then you could actually just, sign to people, but you'd still want to know the general hand signals as well that are sort of more combat and recon focused. So, like I said at the beginning of this video, may not be for everyone, but I hope I've showed you a few hand signals and given you some ideas of things that you can do. And there's no real right or wrong way to do these, no matter what people are going to tell you or say in my comments. Hand signals are hand signals. Pick what works for you, use them. If you really want to stick with one particular group, so whether it be SWAT or military, US or something, then learn them and then use them in the game. I guarantee whenever your marshal or referee or the person running the plot line, when they see your group stop and split up in like a some sort of like meter spread or something, then they're going to be freaked out when they see you just moving through the battlefield like that, because their mind is just going to go, because they're not going to know what's happening, because all of a sudden you go from just a group of rogues or maybe a little mercenary unit into like a special forces team. And I think that that'd be really interesting. I mean, it'd be much cooler in a modern type of game, but like I said, medieval fantasy, who's to say that you're not a crack team of mercenaries and you have these abilities and these skills. You can also use horns and banners and standards and flags and whatever else you want to do, but I think the hand signals, very simple for anyone to do. And like I said, just a few pointers: non-dominant hand, large exaggerated gestures so that people know what you're doing and that you're not just flooding, and that you're not just swatting a fly or something. And from there, I leave it up to you. If you come up with some awesome ones and make a video or something, or want to hit me up on Instagram, my social media and all my links are below. I'd love to see what you come up with, or if you already have some that you use, I'd love to hear about them. And like I said, hopefully it helps you out. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Be sure to click that bell icon. A lot of you watch my videos, but you're not subscribed. Why not? If you don't want to watch my videos, you don't have to watch them, but you should subscribe anyways, so you know when they come out, because maybe it will be something that interests you. And if you want to support me in some other way, through Patreon or Ko-Fi, that would be fantastic, but not necessary. Just please let everyone that you know about my channel and the awesome content that I'm making and trying to help out LARPers all around the world. And of course, as always, adventure on.